everyone. Welcome. How's the first day going? I just have to make a big shout out that Rebecca Moore is front and center here for this presentation. Amazing. So welcome everyone to the Climate Change Adaptation Lightning Talks. My name is Denise Pearl and I manage the Google Cloud Ready Sustainability Program. Today I'm very excited for this session, during which we're going to hear 9 lightning talks featuring topics around advancing nature conservation and the protection, management, and restoration of Earth's natural resources through insights and metrics. I want to explain the rules to everyone. Each speaker is only going to have 5 minutes to deliver their talk. We'll have a sign to hold up at the 1-minute mark to let them know that it's time to wrap up. And then we're also going to have a sign for applause at the end. So when they finish, we're hoping that all of you will support these speakers and the amazing news that they're going to share. To fit in the 9 speakers, we don't have time for Q&A during this session. But if you're inspired by what you hear, we encourage you to go find the speaker either during the 15-minute break afterwards or during the networking session at 4:15. So with that, let's kick things off. Jen Hurd leads the Earth Observation Insights team at the Alberta Biodiversity Monitoring Institute, where she has supported their satellite-based mapping and monitoring efforts for over a decade. As a geospatial science professional with an MSc in geography, she largely focuses on natural landscape dynamics, which have recently included post-disturbance forest regeneration and wetland mapping. Jen?
Thank you, Denise, and thank you everyone for coming. So biodiversity is a crucial component of ecosystem health and really enables ecosystems to be able to provide things like clean air and water. And at the Alberta Biodiversity Monitoring Institute, or ABMI, as we call it for short, we really believe that you can only manage what you measure. And so that's what we do. So at ABMI, we've been described as one of the premier monitoring programs in the world. We're a non-regulatory, arm's-length, not-for-profit organization established in 2007, and we have a multi-million-dollar Canadian annual budget. So we track changes in wildlife and habitats across the province. We work collaboratively to provide relevant, scientifically credible information. So that includes ongoing systematic ground sampling at hundreds of sites across the province. It includes mapping and monitoring land cover and human footprint across the province, as well as providing open access data and data products to the public. So ABMI's Geospatial Center, that's where I'm housed, that's where the geospatial magic happens. So we have several different teams and individuals with separate expertise. We have a human footprint mapping group, and they provide an annual human footprint inventory for the province. We have another set of folks who do local vegetation regeneration mapping on disturbances to support caribou habitat management. And both of these groups work very closely with the Alberta government in partnership with them. We also have a subsidiary, Biodiversity Pathways, and it's through this group that we do collaborating in other jurisdictions in neighboring provinces of British Columbia and Saskatchewan and with Indigenous communities. The other team, my team, is the Earth Observation Insights team, and we're the ones who do the satellite applications. So Alberta is quite a large province in Western Canada. It's nearly the size of Texas. So you can imagine if we're mapping and monitoring across that area, it requires a lot of imagery, a lot of processing power. So this is where Google Earth Engine has really been a game changer for us. It gives us that efficient, easy access to the open geospatial data and allows us to produce products on unprecedented spatial and temporal scales. So I'm going to showcase some of our applications here over the next few slides. So the first one is post-disturbance spectral regeneration in forest areas. So looking at vegetation signals spectrally and how well they recover after disturbance. So we've done this largely in forest harvest areas across the province. We've produced a public data set and an Earth Engine app for folks to go and browse the data set. And this has been a really cool data set because local community groups have started using it to direct some of their own citizen science work on the ground in harvest areas. We've been expanding this to well sites and mine areas as well, and that work is ongoing. The other next application is wetlands. So 22% of our province is covered by wetlands, from large peatland complexes in the north that include a lot of fens, to prairie potholes in the south, the seasonal marshes and things like that. Alberta does have a wetland policy, but it requires accurate, up-to-date inventories, as you would expect. So we've been able to leverage Google Earth Engine to provide a province-wide inventory of the 5 broad wetland classes across the province. And this is a really first time that someone has been able to do this over the whole province together at one time. So we've been able to bring that together with our this information on wetland distribution and bring it together with ABMI's biodiversity on the ground data and produce this Wetland Atlas of Alberta online report that you can find on our website. And then more recently, we've been bringing in new machine learning algorithms and LiDAR to enhance these efforts. And the third one is algal bloom monitoring. So monitoring harmful blue-green algae blooms in lakes in Alberta, freshwater lakes. You can see we started with Pigeon Lake in Alberta. This is a very popular recreational lake. We've got a prototype Google Earth Engine app up there on the left of the screen. So we started here, and this is built into a new 3-year research program that we're doing, funded by Alberta Innovates, and with 10 different partners, some of whom are listed on the bottom there. And our main goals are accurate modeling for timely monitoring at a variety of lakes across Alberta. We've got 6 lakes we're looking at, and then also using time series to go back and look at historical trends in those lakes, because we don't have a really good idea of what's actually going on in the historical trends for algal blooms in Alberta. So this is really exciting ongoing work. And that's all I have for you today. I'm very happy to answer questions. Reach out to me through email or however you'd like to, and you can also find ABMI online on our website. We've got data and all sorts of things up there. Thank you.
Job well done, Tom. Wonderful. Our next speaker is Katie P. Bernhard, and she's a PhD candidate in human dimensions of natural resources and the environment at Penn State. She is a National Science Foundation Graduate Research Traineeship Fellow, say that 3 times fast, and a NASA Space Grant Consortium Graduate Fellow for the years 2023-2024. Katie's research uses geographic data science, spatial econometrics, and mixed methods to understand socioeconomic conditions and vulnerabilities in communities around protected areas and biodiversity hotspots in East and Central Africa. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be here. So the work that I'm presenting today is really trying to address this issue that smallholder agriculture is a primary proximate driver of deforestation and forest degradation in Congo Basin, even when those forests are protected. So what we're trying to do here is really strike this balance between supporting people's economic and livelihood needs while also supporting this globally critical biodiversity hotspot. Congo Basin forests constitute Africa's largest continuous tract of forest, so their protection is very important. This study that I'm presenting today is currently under review, and it's an extremely small part of a much broader project, the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN's Drivers of Deforestation and Forest Degradation Project. The FAO in this project is working on integrating Google Earth Engine with other cloud-based processing tools. For example, CEPAL, which is FAO's cloud-based computing environment. For example, they're working to develop new geospatial modules that can help us better understand drivers of deforestation. So for this study, there were 2 key sites. These are transboundary protected area complexes in Central Africa. Transboundary, because of course, Congo Basin forests cover 6 different Central African countries. And then protected area complexes in the sense that they are groupings or clusters of protected areas that have different resource use restriction categories. So for example, a national park adjacent to a wildlife reserve or a hunting reserve. The methods for this study were 2 key steps. The first was predicting increased risk of deforestation and forest degradation, resulting specifically from smallholder agriculture in Earth Engine. The QR code here is to the data set that was essentially the meat and potatoes of this study. That direct drivers of forest change data set was derived by the FAO team. I was not a part of that. But it was derived using manual interpretation of satellite imagery, which followed some machine learning and a suite of other modeling techniques. Then we used zonal statistics to comparatively assess the predicted risk to intact forest inside and outside protected area boundaries resulting from smallholder agriculture. So the hypothesis there being that there would be lower predicted risk inside park boundaries. So this is just an overall schematic. Essentially, we were training a random forest model over an image stack that included that drivers of deforestation and degradation data set. It resulted in an output layer that looked roughly something like this. And then those values were extracted for some zonal statistics. You can see that we had some mixed results in terms of protected area effectiveness for reducing risk to intact forests resulting from smallholder agriculture. For example, the Billy Uwere Protected Area Complex between northern DRC and Central African Republic actually had some higher predicted risk inside protected area boundaries. You can also break this down by the protected area category, so hunting reserves versus wildlife reserves versus national parks. And the implications of this work are really looking at how we can use spatial planning and land use planning to optimize the spatial arrangement of categories within a protected area complex to achieve, again, those dual aims of meeting economic and livelihood needs while also protecting this critical biodiversity hotspot. There's also, of course, contextual, institutional, and governance factors that vary between these countries, and it's important to recognize that. For example, you can see in the map here the conflict context between the two sites included in this, again, very small study, vary quite significantly. So this study was, of course, made possible by FAO and Central African Forest Initiative, and is also made possible by the National Science Foundation Graduate Research Traineeship in Regenerative Landscape Science, Landscape U, and the NASA Pennsylvania Space Grant Consortium Fellowship. Thank you.
Way to go, Katie. Our next speaker is Ling Lu, and she is a research scientist at the Natural Capital Project and a consultant with the World Bank. Ling?
Hello, everyone. I'm Ling. So today I'm going to talk about the BILA approach. What's about the BILA? BILA, it is a biodiversity, ecosystem, landscape, and assessment. So what we are focusing on? So the BILA, we have two goals. Yeah, so the major, we want to promote the use of the ecosystem surveys, inform the project planning. We want to enhance the effectiveness and the long-term sustainability of investment in multiple sectors. We also want to boost the country resilience to climate change. Just one more thing I want to highlight for people who are not familiar with ecosystem surveys. It is about quantify the benefits from nature. So here is where we are working, like in Africa and the Asia. So like the sector engaged several sectors here, like landscape, water, and so on. We have the several key steps about our methodology. The first step, it is about the assessment of the degradation and impacts on the ecosystem surveys. So here I want to highlight here a lot of inputs for running the model we generate from the Google Earth Engine, including like the vegetation condition, scenario, and so on. We are so glad that we have such a great platform to make our work like the doable, feasible, and quickly. The second step, it is the assessment of the potential restoration technology in priority landscapes. The next step, we do the evaluation of the restoration options. The last step, we will figure out and generate the maps to find where are the cost-effective restoration priority areas. I'm going to give the two examples. In the two countries we have been working on. The first one it is in DRC. If we look at the map on the right together, from this map we can see where it is a high concentration of the ecosystem surveys, priority forest, where it's low. And this one, it will help the country There are two things have been carried out. The first thing, like the results from our work, it has been informed the selection of the priority area for $300 million DRC forest and savanna restoration investment program. It also currently supporting country climate development report scenario, integrating the forest ecosystem service values in macro modeling. This is another case study I want to present here. It is in Madagascar. So here I want to highlight the figure in the middle. It's called ecosystem service opportunity. From this map, the dark color represents where you want to invest. You can get the most benefits and the least cost. So it highlights like the restoration would provide the best ecosystem service outcomes, like we work on like the erosion, water regulation. Yeah, it can help both large and small projects select specific area. Yeah, so I want to mention like this is just an example of the map for the work we have been doing. We generate a series of the map like this, and for the Madagascar, this work has been developed, has been used to inform the selection of the priority areas for the rural livelihoods, productive and resilience projects, also for ecosystem service opportunity index. So here is our team. So if you have more questions, if you are interested in to learn more details, yeah, feel free to contact us. We are happy to continue chat. Thank you.
Job well done, Ling. Take your mic back. Wonderful. Our next speaker is Fernanda Ribeiro. She is a researcher at the Amazon Environmental Research Institute and a coordinator of the Cerrado Deforestation Alert System. She holds a PhD in geography from the University of California, Santa Barbara, where she established her work at the intersection of geospatial data science, conservation planning, and landscape ecology. Her research focuses on understanding the environmental consequences of global changes while working on solutions to improve sustainability efforts in a wide variety of landscapes and ecosystems. Fernanda? You got a cheering there.
Hi, I'm glad to be here, and today I'm going to be talking about SAD Cerrado. So this is a deforestation alert system that maps and reports new deforestation alerts in the Brazilian savanna. Deforestation has been taking over the Cerrado biome, which is a neotropical savanna in central Brazil that has the highest plant diversity among the other savannas in the world. So we currently have only a bit over 50% of native Cerrado left. And these remnants are concentrated in a region known as the last agricultural frontier in the Cerrado. So most of the newly deforested sites are also located in the same region, but their spatial pattern differs across the area. That means that new alerts can range from several small polygons of like 1 hectare to single large ones of like 12,000 hectares or even larger. And this makes it even more challenging to accurately map and monitor deforestation in near real time. So the Cerrado has an official deforestation monitoring program held by the INPE, which is the National Institute of Space Research in Brazil, and this program is called the TER. So the TER maps monthly deforestation alerts for the entire Cerrado at 30-meter resolution based on visual interpretation. And even though it provides crucial data to combat deforestation in the Cerrado, for several reasons, the TER alone does not map all the deforestation that takes place in the biome. So SAD Cerrado came to fill in this gap by mapping additional deforested sites, which actually represents a big chunk of the total net Cerrado deforestation. And we can see this complementarity between both products in this last figure on the right, showing the importance and relevance of both monitoring systems to give us a more complete picture of what's going on in terms of deforestation in the Cerrado. So SAD Cerrado is an initiative of the civil society based on open and collaborative science led by EPAM in collaboration with the Map Biomas Network. It was launched in 2022, but its time series starts actually in 2020. So we use data from Sentinel-2 MSI, mapping deforestation in near real time at 10-meter resolution and reporting new alerts on a monthly basis. So this is an overview of our methods framework. So it has 3 main methodological steps, in which Earth Engine is used in 2 of them, while the last step is processed in a local server using deep learning Python packages. So since most vegetation types in savannas are composed of semi-deciduous trees and shrubs that lose leaves in the dry season, it is no surprise that one of the main challenges of monitoring deforestation in savannas is related to their spectral and seasonal variability of the natural vegetation. So SAD methods accounts for this issue by removing most of the seasonality effect through a spatial filtering and temporal normalization. And this results in deforestation candidate pixels that are used to reduce the region of interest that will be mapped by deep learning algorithms. And in this final step, we use 2 deep learning algorithms. So the first one does pre-classification to filter out pixels that are not consistent with deforestation patterns. And finally, CNN is used to segment and classify all deforestation alerts. So this graph shows our complete time series since 2020. And we can see that deforestation in the Cerrado increases in the dry season that goes from June to October. But it still has like high rates during the wet season as well. That goes from November to May. And currently, SAD Cerrado provides accurate data in near real time that is already being used to inform decision-making at the federal level in Brazil. So we can see in this graph that deforestation has been increasing this last year. We had a 15% increase of the total net deforestation mapped from January to August compared to the same months last year. And this highlights the importance of zero deforestation commitments and control policies to reduce deforestation in the Brazilian savanna. So we hope to keep improving data processing limitations that we currently face and updating methods to improve efficiency and accuracy of our maps. So thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions later on and by email.
Wonderful, Fernanda. Great job. Our next speaker is João Siqueira, who graduated in environmental engineering from the State University of Para in Brazil. João has experience in geosciences with an emphasis on geoprocessing, working mainly on GIS software development. He is currently a senior developer at the Biomass Network, acting directly over the Map Biomass LULC, Chaco, Pan-Amazon, Chile, Argentina, Indonesia, and Map Biomass alerts. João?
Thank you. Hi, my name is João Siqueira, and I'm part of the Map Biomas network in Brazil. Well, Map Biomas is mapping land use, land cover in South America and Indonesia. In Brazil, Map Biomas is also mapping deforestation. Today, I'm going to talk about the Map Biomas Alerta. It's a system developed to validate almost every deforestation alert produced to Brazil. So on the left, we have a flow of general Map Biomas alert process. In short, Map Biomas is validate all relevant deforestation data available for the Brazilian territory and producing a detailed polygon for each one of these alerts. In other words, we are getting this yellow polygon and transforming to the red polygon. Low resolution information transformed to high resolution information. Only in 2022, the Map Biomas has validated more than 76,000 alerts in all Brazilian, entire Brazilian territory. So, and how are we doing this? Well, a dozen of people collecting samples for each alert in all 6 Brazilian biomes. So we use these samples to train the random forest and classify the detailed alerts for each one region. So we call this process refinement. And the result is so many deforestation alerts refined in a huge sample database. So now we start to improve this methodology, using those samples in stratified groups to classify the refined polygon without collecting any new samples, using planet imagery and random forest. So, and we already have some results. So for a region in Brasilia, Amazon, we got 74% of accuracy in this test region. If we ignore the first generation of planet image, because it's almost a beta version of the planet data, we get 8% of accuracy. So next year, we will execute the routine to the entire Amazon biome, okay? And thank you.
You're so fast, Rob. Good job. Take your microphone. Our next speaker is Luis Neto, and he is a computer engineer and a master in computational intelligence, and also a PhD in the same area. He is also a member of MAP Biomass in the coastal zone. Luis?
Thank you. So hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. So before we start, I need to clearly define the target. And here we go to subdivide the mining activity in Brazil between 2 targets. The industrial one, this one is very mechanized. They have a lot of machines, huge companies, stable areas, and every type of mineral was extracted from Brazilian territory. And the second one, the garimpo, or alluvial mine, or small-scale gold mining. So this one is normally related to gold extraction that's not respected for the laws, environmental laws from Brazil, and have a lot of slavery related. And using this methodology based on Google Earth Engine, we're able to map yearly this activity. So first, we start to build an annual cloud-free mosaic using Google Earth Engine, add it as a band, together with a training region band. So we manually draw polygons defining the mining footprint and export everything to the TFE record in Google Drive, use an UNet made by TensorFlow to train and the active learning process to improve this training, to improve this prediction. Once it's done, we apply to the 38 annual mosaics which we have for Landsat mosaics. Once everything is done, we upload it to the bucket as a COG, cloud-optimized GeoTIFF is the newest technology, and apply a post-processing chain filters inside of Google Earth Engine. When everything's ready, we do the map accuracy check. Okay, so look for this result. We have 38 years of mapping and 2 classes. Garimpos in yellow or orange, and the red is industrial ones. Look for the stability, the linear growth of the industrials, and the exponential growth from the garimpos, especially in the last 5 years of this time series. And 443,000 of hectares was detected in the last year. It's 25 times the Washington, D.C. area, just for mine activity in Brazil. And 59% is garimpo. Inside of this 59, we have 85% related to gold extraction only. And just in the last year, we have a huge expansion. Almost 3 times the city of San Francisco is related to the expansion, just in 1 year. And looking for results per state, this is the Brazilian map, almost every industrial area, industrial footprint of mining, area inside of Minas Gerais state. But the garimpo ones is inside of the Amazon, the states of the Amazon. 92.4% is inside and concentrated in the Amazon region. This is a map demonstrating the protected and the indigenous lands in Brazil. Indigenous are the red ones and protected are the gray ones. And these small yellow dots are the mining areas, the garimpo ones. Okay? So look for that. This is a river. And the border of the river was being destroyed by boats, garimpos boats. That's a different kind of garimpos who recently was expanding this frontier by mining activity, and it's beside the indigenous land, slightly beside it, the indigenous land. And looking for that, we just try to measure how much of this garimpo are inside these protected areas. And well, from 2018 until 2022, we have an increase of almost 3 times the regional value of garimpos inside the protected areas in Brazil in just 5 years. In 2022, we have 36,000 of hectares deemed illegal due to their locations within the restricted areas. That's equivalent of 3 times the San Francisco city area. So, thank you so much for your attention.
Job well done, Luis. I think Luis is going to get a lot of questions at the networking hour. Our next speaker is Jake Wall. Jake began his career in conservation in 2003 when he started as an intern at Save the Elephants in Kenya. Since then, he has completed a master's degree in remote sensing from Queen's University, a PhD in geospatial analysis from the University of British Columbia, and worked as a postdoc at Colorado State University. Go Rams. In 2019, he joined the Mara Elephant Project as the Director of Research and Conservation. Welcome, Jake.
Thank you. It's great to be here. Thanks to the Geo4Good team for this awesome event. So I'm going to be talking about Ecoscope, which is an open source conservation data analytics platform. This has been a partnership with Mara Elephant Project and the Earth Ranger team. So basically, how do we efficiently turn data into accessible information to drive research, management, and policy making? And this is still a problem in conservation. We have billions of data points. What do we do to make change in the world? So we feel like there's a lack of unified tools. There's parallel effort and duplication. And we need standardized approaches that people don't have to reinvent the wheel each time to create outputs. So Ecoscope currently is an open source Python library and framework and set of analysis modules. It's really targeted at 4 audiences: the developers, the researchers, managers who will use it, and policymakers. So we are working with data sources, so Earth Ranger, Smart, Google Earth Engine. We're providing an analysis pipeline so people can set up an environment, create an analysis module and run it, schedule it, and then also do data aggregation or output aggregation and dashboarding and delivery. So we're integrating with the Earth Ranger platform, which is a new cloud-based system for conservation data and visualization. And Ecoscope will provide the analytics to Earth Ranger. And so we are working with developers to write the custom Python modules and the code reuse. So you shouldn't have to figure out each time how to create a chart. It should be one line of code if you're lucky. We're working with researchers to really inform what are the key outputs, what are the metrics that we should be looking at, how do we look at trends over time, how do we display geospatial data. We're working with the managers then who will consume this data in live dashboards and be able to make decisions in real time, or as real time as possible. And then finally, we're supporting the export to long-form reports that can be used by a wider audience. This example is our Mar Elephant Project tracking report. This used to take us 6 months to put together, and it's 250 pages. Now it takes an hour. So some of the examples of different modules that we're working on, and I'll just give you a few of them, but there's many more to come. Also looking for contributions and to work with the broader community to figure out what is useful and what can we include so that someone can just use these. For instance, elephant home range. So here we have core and dispersal areas calculated using a time density approach. For instance, connectivity monitoring. So we use different network matrices like betweenness index. So we have a module that can calculate that very quickly now. And this we can present to a minister and say, you know, here are the areas of high connectivity in the ecosystem. We've integrated with Google Earth Engine. So some of the key things are temporal spatial trends. So this is the normalized difference vegetation index. And we can see, you know, where do we have a drought this year? How is vegetation tracking over time? And how does it vary spatially? So similar with rainfall monitoring. So these are basic questions. Kenya went through a drought this year, and everyone assumed the Mara also had a drought, but actually doesn't. And this is the kind of monitoring tool that can help us understand that. Deforestation monitoring. So we're using the Hansen data set, and so the ability to calculate a survival curve very quickly for a given AOI. And then also working with spatial databases and doing things like fence and road monitoring. So we've got modules to calculate density of features quickly. Yeah, so in summary, we're just trying to streamline and make it efficient to create conservation data outputs that are going to be meaningful. And a lot of it's focused on the monitoring and the ability to summarize data across a wide range of sectors. Thanks very much.
Great job, Jake. We have a duo up next. Cohen Adler and Natalie Vallette are undergraduate researchers at the UC Santa Cruz, studying computer science, specializing in computational ecology, applying parallel computing and machine learning to species connectivity modeling. Cohen's work focuses on AI and ML's use to help build robust and interpretable models and fair modifications to classical ML models, such as decision trees. Feels like what I do every day. Natalie has interned at AWS throughout her undergraduate career and hopes to continue working in the intersection of ecology and computation after graduation. Welcome, Cohen and Natalie.
Hi, everyone. We're very honored to be here to present to you all our novel approach for habitat connectivity modeling. Our research is conducted out of University of California, Santa Cruz, under the advising of Luca D'Alfro and Natalio Campo Penuela, and our team of undergraduate researchers, including Cohen and I, and Artie Nazarov and Jasmine Tai. So, first of all, what is habitat connectivity? It basically measures the ability of a species to move between habitat patches. Connectivity is an extremely important indicator of species health, as isolated habitats are much more vulnerable to extinction events. Thus, understanding habitat connectivity is vital for informing restoration and preservation decisions. Leading connectivity models used today are unfortunately quite slow due to connectivity being so computationally intensive, resulting in very high costs in both time and money to run these models. These costs only increase in proportion to the geographic scale at which the models are ran and the number of species being ran. This cost usually makes truly informed conservation decisions extremely costly and often infeasible due to the computational intensity. This is where Ecoscape comes in, and it is a novel connectivity approach which simulates species dispersal via a diffusion process, offering properties which are easily parallelizable on GPUs, resulting in computation up to 1,000 times faster than the leading models today. We've also developed the first quantitative validation technique for connectivity models, which leverages publicly available citizen science data from eBird to measure the correlation between our connectivity and the connectivity of other models, and compute the correlation between that connectivity and field observations. Our model has a correlation that's on par with the leading models seen today, while running in just a fraction of the time. We're hoping that this will lead to faster decision-making in restoration and connectivity.
In addition to calculating connectivity, we're also able to use our diffusion model to calculate the flow layer. The flow layer indicates a pixel's impact on overall connectivity, where typically a higher flow indicates a higher foot traffic. We're also able to use the flow layer to identify important corridors that might be important for conservation efforts. The goal for this is to build a tool that's able to help generate these connectivity maps. To do so, we use both habitat and landscape imagery data that is able to help tell us what a species is, where species are willing to traverse over. For instance, a forest bird is more willing to traverse over a forest rather than a barren desert. Additionally, we also use species dispersal and gap crossing distance to help identify the diffusion process, where the dispersal distance identifies how far a species will travel in a specific trip, whereas the gap crossing is the distance in a single rest. All of our data that we've used has been from public sources, such as eBird, IUCN, and other public literature. With our model, we plan on developing a web application tool that can be used openly and publicly for all, using the Google Earth engine to help display and automate the computation of these models. Additionally, Natalie is working on her thesis on using this tool to automatically identify and find optimal land conservation efforts. We're in our final stages of our paper publication for the model, and our goal is to re-implement our Python code base in C or C++ for even faster computation. If you have questions, feel free to find us after the speaker event, or visit our website at ecoscape-earth.github.io. Thank you.
Good job, you guys. Thank you for the shout out to the GPUs. Speaking from somebody from Cloud. Our last speaker is Karina Azevedo, and she is the Innovation Manager for Agriculture, Cattle Ranching, and Conservation in the Brazilian Amazon. She has a background with ideation and implementation of pioneering products and projects in healthcare, IT, and environmental conservancy. Karina is an aeronautical engineer by the University of Sao Paulo and business administrator by the School of Business from the state of Sao Paulo. Karina, take us home.
Thanks, Denise, for the warm welcome. Hi, everyone. I'm Karina, and I'm here today to introduce you to Digitais da Floresta, a project using SIRA, which stands for Stable Isotope Ratio Analysis, and Isoscapes to support rainforest preservation in the Brazilian Amazon. So, Digitais da Floresta, which translates as Forest Fingerprints, is an initiative focused on using technology to help preserve the global resource that is the Amazon rainforest. We're partnered with a number of organizations who have made this exciting work happen. This project wouldn't have been possible without collaboration between Google.org, University of Sao Paulo, Imaflora, Trace, and many others. So the Amazon is critical for biodiversity and our climate. It contains a third of the world's species and 10% of the global carbon reserve. However, it's being deforested at an alarming rate by many industries, ranging from cattle ranching and soy production to timber logging. A lot of this activity is happening illegally, and it's very hard to stop. The methods for tracing timber and combat illegal logging in the Amazon are far from foolproof. So bringing more transparency to the timber supply chain is key, starting with accurate origin verification techniques. So this is where the science behind SIRA and Isoscapes play a powerful role. For some of you, this may be familiar, but for those who aren't, here's a quick 101. As it grows, each tree absorbs elements from the air, soil, and water where it lives. The ratios of those elements, or stable isotopes, are unique to different geographic areas. So you can sample a number of trees with known origin and create a map of the expected isotope ratios, or fingerprints, of trees in different parts of the forest. A map of those is what's referred to as an isoscape, and you can see an example right here. Showing the expected ratio of a delta 18 oxygen stable isotope derived from precipitation based on geographical locations across South America. So researchers, including those at the University of Sao Paulo, have been working on using timber isoscapes as a tool for origin verification. The basic process involves gathering and processing reference samples with geospatial data and historical environmental data, such as precipitation. Combining those, they generate an isoscape. Earlier this year, Digitize a Floresta got a helping hand from Google.org's fellowship program, through which we received the aid of 20 Googlers for 6 months who helped build an ML-powered approach to isoscape generation. This collaboration resulted in a variational inference model showing very promising results. So onto to the final step. A given sample, say from a shipment of timber that has just arrived at a sawmill, can be origin tested. The samples are analyzed, and then the probability that it comes from its said origin is assessed via hypothesis testing. So to expose this powerful capability and make it as usable as possible in the real world, we have built Timber ID. Timber ID is a web application that enables streamlined sample data management and also surfaces origin verification results based on the isoscapes. To close, I wanted to briefly touch on how we use Earth Engine, Google Cloud Platform, and Colab to enable this project. We use Colab extensively for our ML work, from selecting training data to generating the isoscapes and validating their quality. The resulting isoscapes are stored in Earth Engine. We also use Earth Engine datasets as input features into our ML model. And finally, in our origin verification report, we use water masks, land coverage, and even deforestation alerts from Earth Engine and map biomas, who you just heard from earlier in the session. We're kicking off testing of Timber ID this fall, so if you'd like to see a demo, please come find us later. Thank you.
Great job, Tina. I just want to say thank you, and maybe a final round of applause for all of our speakers. It's incredibly difficult to get up and do that, so I hope they all can hear that. Thank you. And I just want to say that many, many years ago, the first story that I heard about Earth Engine that inspired me to be such a great champion for the Geo4Good team inside Google Cloud was about responsible logging. Many, many years ago. So super fun if you guys ever get a chance to see that. Now we have a 15-minute break. And again, if you guys want to ask any of the speakers questions, we encourage you to find them there. Or at 4:15, we'll start the networking session. So we invite everybody interested, go find your speaker, take a quick break, and we'll see you back here at 4:15. Thank you all.